Imagine your closest ally telling you to change everything about yourself, or they're walking away. That's essentially what just happened at one of the world's most important security conferences. And what it means for global stability. Let's just say, it's complicated. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Picture this: Europe's top leaders, America's new Secretary of State, and Ukraine's president all in one room, at what's basically the Super Bowl of international security meetings. But instead of unity speeches and solidarity handshakes, we got, well, let's call it tough love, wrapped in diplomatic language. So grab your coffee, hit that like button, and let's dive into why this conference might have just changed the future of the Western Alliance. So Marco Rubio, America's brand new Secretary of State under the Trump administration, took the stage in Munich. And the European leaders, they applauded loudly. Let me explain. At last year's conference, J.D. Vance, now the vice president, basically told Europe they were failing at democracy, suppressing free speech, and facing civilizational decline. Pretty harsh words for your supposed allies, right? So when Rubio showed up this year talking about how the US and Europe are like family, how their fates are intertwined, and how America is Europe's child, yeah, that sounded pretty good in comparison. But the actual message underneath all those warm words, it was still a wrecking ball. Rubio's core message was basically, we're willing to rebuild this relationship, but only if you change. Fundamentally, what does that mean? He's talking about Europe adopting more conservative Christian values, closing borders, dropping climate policies, and completely rethinking their approach to governance. Not just spending more on defense. We're talking about a complete overhaul of values. One analyst described it perfectly. This is like couples therapy for an abusive relationship. The message underneath the niceties? Change who you are or we're done. Now, here's where it gets interesting. European leaders had already pushed back against this narrative just hours before Rubio spoke. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stood on that same stage and said, essentially, look, MAGA's culture wars? Those aren't our fights. We don't need to import America's political divisions. French President Emmanuel Macron made similar points, emphasizing that France and Europe should have the right to manage their own information space and democratic processes without being told what to do. But Rubio's speech? His speechwriters made it clear. America's vision for the alliance moving forward doesn't really care what Europe thinks it needs. It's America's way or the highway. But then, and this is crucial, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine stepped up to speak. And honestly, he stole the show. This was Zelensky's fourth time at the Munich conference, and each appearance has been a stark reminder of what's actually at stake here. While European and American leaders were debating values and culture wars, Ukraine has been literally fighting for survival. Zelensky didn't hold back. He spoke in English, which itself sent a message. He laid out the brutal reality. Every single Ukrainian power plant has been hit by Russian attacks. By Ukraine's count, every single kilometer of territory costs 156 Ukrainian lives to defend or reclaim. Let that sink in for a moment. And here's what really hit hard. Zelensky called out the peace process itself. He pointed out the absurdity of a situation where Ukraine, the victim of a 4-year invasion, is being pressured to make concessions, while Russia, the aggressor, faces comparatively little pressure. He even mocked what Russia calls the Anchorage spirit, this idea that Putin and Trump made some secret deal when they met in Alaska. Zelensky wasn't buying it. Behind him, as he spoke, video footage played showing Ukrainian technology taking out Russian drones. It was a powerful visual contrast, real warfare happening in real time, while diplomats debated policy in a comfortable conference hall. Now let's talk about what wasn't said, because sometimes that's just as important. Remember that whole crisis over Greenland, where Trump suggested the US might want to acquire Danish territory, causing massive diplomatic tensions just weeks ago. Rubio didn't mention it even once. Not a single word. That deliberate silence? Many interpreted it as a kind of peace offering. Like, hey, we're not going to talk about that near disaster, so let's just move forward. And when Rubio did address Ukraine in the Q&A session afterward, he threw his audience a bone. He suggested the Trump administration still doesn't know if Russia really wants peace, which is exactly what European leaders suspect. This contradicted Trump's own repeated claims that Putin wants to make a deal and that Zelensky should compromise. So even within the US administration, there seem to be different messages. Okay, so why does all of this actually matter? Let's zoom out for a second. The transatlantic relationship, basically the alliance between North America and Europe, has been the foundation of Western security since World War II. We're talking about NATO, mutual defense agreements, shared intelligence, coordinated responses to global threats. It's been the bedrock of the international order for nearly 80 years. But that relationship has been under serious strain. The chaos over Ukraine policy for the past year, the sudden Greenland crisis, and now these fundamental disagreements over values and priorities. It's all adding up. The Munich Security Conference happens every year, and every year European leaders promise to spend more on defense, to do more to ensure their own security. But year after year, those changes don't really materialize in meaningful ways. The current European leadership is also in a precarious position. Political scandals, elections looming, and a lack of resources to match their ambitions. The British Prime Minister might not survive until next year's conference. France is facing presidential elections. Trump will have midterm elections to worry about. And through all of this political musical chairs, Ukraine is still fighting, still losing people, still trying to be heard over the noise of transatlantic squabbling. So what's the bottom line here? The Munich Security Conference 2025 revealed an alliance in crisis. The United States, under the Trump administration, is telling Europe, change your fundamental values or we might not have your back. Europe is pushing back, but without the resources or unified political will to chart a truly independent course. And Ukraine, the country with the most at stake, is watching allies bicker while its people die defending territory kilometer by kilometer. The applause for Rubio's speech, it wasn't really approval. It was relief that things weren't worse, mixed with a desperate hope that the relationship isn't completely broken. But as one analyst put it, this feels like couples therapy for a relationship that might already be over. And the big question is, can this alliance survive another year of this? Can it survive until the next Munich conference, when leadership might have changed on multiple continents, but the fundamental problems remain? By next year's conference, there might be a just and sustainable peace in Ukraine. Or, more likely, Ukraine will still be fighting and still trying to be heard over another episode of Europe. What do you think? Are we watching the slow-motion collapse of the post-World War II order? Should Europe develop its own independent defense strategy or double down on trying to repair the relationship with the United States? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear different perspectives on this. If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more analysis of global events that actually matter. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. And remember, these diplomatic conferences might seem boring on the surface, but they're literally shaping the world we're all living in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.